MorristownGreen.com. We're with Dr. Mazzola, who is a pediatric neurologist and expert on head injuries at Morristown Medical Center. First of all, how many kids every year have head injuries from sports?
So Kevin, those are some interesting statistics. About 1.3 million people a year end up in the emergency room suffering from traumatic brain injury or concussions. Of that 1.3 million, about 500,000 are under the age of 14. So about 500,000 kids a year suffer from traumatic brain injury.
Is there any sport that's the leading cause of these injuries?
Well, if you look at the numbers, football, wrestling, basketball, those are your most popular sports. Those are the most common head injuries that we see.
Now, we've had some studies at the NFL level of repeated concussions and the brain damage they've caused. I know that your own kids play football. Tell me about that. Should parents let their kids play sports like football?
I think it's good to encourage children to participate in team sports. There are certainly a lot of values that are taught to children in team sports. However, you have to always be cognizant of head injury in your child. Certainly if your child had a concussion, it's important to seek medical advice, to see a medical professional, a concussion specialist, whether it's someone like me, a pediatric neurosurgeon, or a pediatric neurologist, or a pediatric neuropsychologist. It's important to assess the child to see has there been any brain damage. We can discover if a child's had any brain damage through doing very special neurocognitive testing. This is almost like a mini IQ test where you sit down with children and you assess their brain function to see has there been any permanent brain damage. For children who've had severe headache or having post-concussive syndrome, on occasion we do order an MRI, which is a very detailed picture of the brain. Certainly there have been studies done now with older athletes who've passed away looking at their brains on an anatomic level, and there is definitely evidence of permanent brain damage in athletes who've had multiple concussions.
Now, growing up playing sports, I know that there's always a lot of pressure. You want to be tough, you want to get back in the game. When you're at the game, how do you know if you can go back in? You've had your bell rung, they say.
You're out of the game. You're out of the game. We have a huge outreach program here at Morristown Pediatric Hospital, and we're reaching out to team coaches, athletic trainers, and parents to let them know if you've had any head injury or if you suspect a child may have had a head injury, you're out of the game. You're done. And then that child should be referred to their pediatrician or to the emergency room if they have any neurological symptoms at all.
Have they made any strides at all in helmets?
Yes, more and more they're developing better helmets, but still, you know, what happens very often in the head injury, it's not the direct impact, it's the impact from the side where you're not suspecting a hit and you get hit from the side, and it's a rotational injury where you see shearing and damage to the nerve cells in the brain. So they are making improvements in the helmets.
And what is an impact test, and should your kid get one?
Right. An impact test is a mini IQ test that's offered online. Right now it's available for children age 12 and over, and it's an online IQ test that the child can take before the start of the season. And then if a child sustains a concussion, you repeat the impact test within 72 hours after the concussion and compare it to their baseline scores. I've seen lots of kids in the hospital who haven't had a baseline impact test. It's still a good idea to have an impact test done even after a concussion, because we do have normative data that shows what a typical 13-year-old should score on an impact test. And it gives us a way to compare or to analyze how the brain is healing after a concussion.
Are these tests free?
They are free if your school or if your high school offers it. Dave's Sporting Goods, I believe, offers free impact testing for high school athletes. Some towns will provide the service for their team athletes. So it's really minimal cost or free depending on where you're getting the test done.
And if people want more information about head injury, where's a good place to go?
They can go to the Concussion Center page of the Atlantic Health website, or they can go to impacttest.com.
Thank you, doctor.
You're very welcome.
Morristown Green.